And we're going to start with the main text, the 법문 paragraph. Even among the cause and the conditions, you have to depend on those which does not have an error and which is not deficient. If you repeat the cause which is incorrect, then even if a lot of time passes by, you will not achieve what you want. You will not achieve the desired consequence. So, likewise, if you want to harvest beans, then you cannot harvest it if you do not plant it. If you want to harvest beans, then the proper cause means to plant the beans. So, if you want the beans, but instead if you plant the red beans, that means you are not relying on the proper cause. Also, if you want a strong beans, then you should give them a good condition. If you're not able to give good condition, but because of no rain, if it's a drought and if it's windy, or if there's too fertilizer, or if it's eaten by an insect or any other animals, if it gives too much bad conditions, then you will not get the desired result. So you have to have a proper cost and proper condition. That's a very basic. That's a very basic speech, so you might be expecting something more from it, but if you think about it, there is nothing that is away from the basic points. So when you say you are becoming a Buddha, then just like you are getting a bean, when you say you are becoming a proper Buddha, then you have to rely on the proper cause and proper condition. If you're not able to rely on the proper condition or proper cause, then you will not have the result of having a Buddha. And although you say it's Buddha, there might be something else totally different from it. What do you think? Relying on the proper cause and proper condition. For example, if you do not rely on proper conditions to become a Buddha, for example, if you say, what is a proper condition to become Buddha? Buddha said is 6 parameters. There are proper conditions for to become Buddha, and there are also methods to practice. There are also means to practice after you have become a Buddha. But if we say we have not been able to provide them a proper condition to become Buddha, like if I have not been able to donate, but if I had the sense of parsimony in my heart, can I become a Buddha? Then even if you have a little sense of samatha in your sense, in one side it will be a little bit out of shape. So you'll become a Buddha who misunderstands himself that you are a Buddha because you have not given them the proper condition to become a Buddha. If you have not given them a proper condition, then the beans might not be the beans that you want. If I repeat it again, then what is the things that you have not desired to get, and what is a Buddha that you are not a proper Buddha? Then it becomes something like you have become a someone who misunderstand yourself or himself as a Buddha. If you do not follow the if you do not follow the rules, can you also become a Buddha? In Korea, a lot of people they argue that even if you do not obey the rules and regulations, you become Buddha. That's impossible. Why is that impossible? It's impossible because that's the way that Buddha acted. So if you do not follow, that is not Buddhism, but that becomes Taoism. Without practicing the forbearing patience, can you become Buddha? You cannot become Buddha. There can be no Buddha who is angry, and there is no Buddha who is lazy. There is no Buddha who is not intelligent, and there is no Buddha who has surpassed the 4 stages. So that they are the very basic conditions to become Buddha. Then what is the seed to become a Buddha? That's sense of bodhisattva. Then what is the cause of bodhisattva? It is compassion. So even if you have the sense of bodhisattva, if you do not have the great compassion of saving all sentient beings, then your sense of bodhisattva is only a dry fantasy of yours. So these kind of things, if you do not think about them, but instead without any reason or without any cause, if you can become Buddha with just one cause, that speech is not said anywhere in the text and also not anywhere in the book. You cannot become Buddha just sitting down and meditation. And that causes a great problem. So even among the condition and the cause, you have to rely on that something that is absolute and there is something that is correct. You have to rely on the proper things and also absolute things. When you say we are listening to a proper and absolute thing, that means, like for example, in Christianity, if you say 10 testaments, does it provide the basis to gain enlightenment? Believing in if they stop you from believing any other god that's not you or that's not me, then that also does not provide the condition. So offering to your ancestors, that is also a way to that's also a ritual to show your respect to the life, but that does not provide you any condition for the enlightenment. So you have to rely on the absolute condition and also absolute cause. So even if we have the sense of bodhisattva that we aspire to become like a Buddha, if you do not have the aspiration to gain everyone from their suffering, then it does not provide a proper condition. That's almost like you're planting boiled, 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 boiled rice seed into the field. You will not have the sprout. So here, uh, Kamlashila has mentioned that you have to rely on the absolute condition and also absolute cause. But among the absolute cause and absolute condition, there are 6 parameters. And in order to practice 6 parameters, you also need to have the compassion.
사무량심이 거기에 포함됩니다. 자비이사가 포함되는 것입니다. 또 실행하는 데 있어서 그 사습법이 있죠, 그죠?
And also, in order to practice 6 parameters, you need to follow those 4 habits. For example, if I say you will go to hell if you do not believe in Buddhism, then that's like a religious violence.
정말 종교 폭력이 돼서 거기에 육바라밀을
And you will never become Buddha in that way. If you tell someone else that you will never become Buddha if you do not believe in Buddhism, it is not mentioned anywhere else in the 4 habits of or four beliefs of Buddhism.
간다라는 얘기가
Your act of speaking, saying that you will go to hell, is almost act of violence to the opponents. It's a saying that you wish them to go to hell if you do not believe in Buddhism. Just like this, even your spirit, if your spiritual posture in order to achieve Buddhism or in order to achieve enlightenment in Buddhism is also very important.
의지하지 않으면 그게 도달될 수 없다. 여러분
If you're taking a car, if you're driving to Seoul, then your car should also stay in shape until you reach Seoul. Then only it's possible. Like your gear should have no problem, your brake should have no problem, and your car should not break down in the middle of the way.
이렇게 하면
If any of these happen, then your car will break down and you will have accident before you reach Seoul. Just like this,
못 간단 말이야. 그와 같이 바람이란
those 6 parameters, even the conditions that you depend on should be absolute.
그다음에 그 일으킨 원인
It's not possible with just relatively good ones.
적당히 하는 건 불가능합니다.
In Buddhism,
불교는 이제
some of you might believe that if I try my best, that should be enough and that should be fine. But as I told you, it's not enough.
불법이지. 그것도
If you do not check it, how precise that is, it is not possible.
하지 않으면 안 된다.
So, just with your some speeches or just with your some acts, it is not the Buddhist doctrines.
떠드는데
In matters of speech, those fake doctors, they are more clear with the ideas. But if you listen to them a little more carefully, then they are a little different from this standard. That's why if you do not go to a dentist who knows properly, then you might have been able to do your teeth in a more cheaper way, but your teeth might break down sooner or later. So learning Buddhist teachings from your teachers,
이렇게
you should always try to have a proper cause and proper condition, and it's a teacher's responsibility to provide them the proper cause and also proper condition.
갖게끔 해주는 것이고 바른 조건을 갖게끔 해주는 것이에요.
Honestly,
사실은 처음 불교를 접하는 사람보다 지금
it's more difficult to teach those who is facing Buddhism for the first time than those who have some idea of Buddhism. It's the same even when you're doing a laundry.
난 옷이 좀 더러워져서 빨래는
It's more difficult to wash those clothes that have some stains than the new ones.
그안 빠지죠. 잘.
Just like this,
그런 것처럼
It's more difficult to teach those who have wrong thoughts. It's very difficult. It's because they have their own stubbornness. In the world of democracy, so if they don't like it, then they will not obey, and they will be stuck in the Buddhism that they have made on their own. So you have to rely on the absolute things. Uh, if you do not rely on absolute or proper things, then you even after a great span of time, you will not be able to achieve what you desire. No, I'm thinking of collecting some stone on a wild road and maybe give water, and maybe after 10 years, maybe after 10 years it might change. There is a condition that's called this stone, and I'm watering it, and there's sunlight. There will be a sprite from it, right? There can be because the sun does not have a life. Um, can a chicken who is dead already can cry in the middle of the night?
내가 그래서 그 일러 준 사람은 108배 하는 것도 제발 108배 하는 거. 그 여기 내가 그 왜 그 기도할 때 108배를 하라고 108배 하라고 내
So these things, 108 prostration. Even if I tell you to bow 108 times, you don't listen. You say it's a little bit weird to do in such a temple.
108배를 하루에 1000배씩 2000배씩 해도 108배를 하는 목적이 분명히 있어.
There is a reason why I'm asking you to do it.
심성 가운데 어떤 것을 치료하고자 하는 대치법을
Just like the way that every medicine has their own cause. It's a medicine for a certain reason. I'm asking you to do it because I believe it cures something. So the aesthetic practice in Buddhism is to cut down the string of agony in your life. But if you do not, without any that kind of knowledge, and if you just prostrate 1,000 times a day, then it does not give you any goods, but instead it will just cause you a problem in your body. It's for sure. Even prayer.
연불을 하는 것도 연불 주력을 하는 것도 대비조 주력을 하는 것도 그것을 해서
Prayer is also a method of practicing.
그냥 주저리 하기 위해서
It is not for the good of some particular reasons. So our acts of prostration and also our act of giving up or repent, it is also in order to give up our greed and agony.
참회는 무조건 그냥 깨구리 참회도 아니고 이거는 시박 참회야.
That's why we are doing prostration. We are not doing it in order to achieve good marks in the test. A lot of you, they say that it's good for diet because you lose weight when you prostrate, but it doesn't help at all. So in the eyes of teachers,
스승들이 이제 볼 때는 일률적으로 다 가르치기를 알아요. 모든 사람이 생각을 정리하는데 이를 줄 같은데 이 가운데서도 사실 입실 제자들은 들어오게 해서
Even the teachers, they should point out the mistakes of your students. But for us, if we try to teach you or if you try to point out your mistakes, then you feel bad about it. So from the wrong cause, even if you try very hard or even if you concentrate very hard, although you feel tired because you have been trying too hard, but it is not a proper aesthetic practice and you are not able to achieve a good solution or good consequence for it. So if we say a farmer is very illiterate and he's not able to make difference between a bean and a red bean, and he's also not being able to differentiate between different plants. So when we went to his farm, the farm was already green, and he felt if he feels there's no need to plant the beans because the field is already green. And if he gives them fertilizer, and when he goes to harvest beans in autumn, there's no bean at all because it's filled with weeds. That means he was not able to distinguish whether it's a beans or whether it's a weed. There's a very famous saying that my mother taught me once. One young lady came to our hometown after marriage, and one of the elder, she asked her to go and pluck out the plant A, but but the plant A and plant B, which is a weed, is not very different. They look quite similar, and she was not able to distinguish which is what, and so she just plucked whatever was easy for her to pluck. And she came back and said, "Oh, I have done a good job." And when the mother went and checked, she had only plucked out the plant A, which was necessary, and she just planted out but she left all the weeds. If we do not have a clear idea about the proper cause and proper condition, just like this, then it's almost similar to our act of plucking out plant A instead of plant B. If you are a farmer with such ignorance, then there's no need to be a farmer at all. And a lot of Korean practices that we say is Buddhist practice are usually like this. We try a lot. Our efforts are great, but there's not much consequence because we are looking at the wrong conditions and also wrong cause. And also we are looking at the conditions and causes with errors. And we also have a wrong thoughts and also wrong conditions. And so for this, we might feel tired or we might feel run out, but there is not much progress. So just like I say, normally, like you practice thousands of years in Baekdu Mountain, in Taebaek Mountain, Jil Mountain, and Zohala Mountain. There's not much progress. So once there was in a mountain where an expert who claimed to be a master of Paduk, and he has been researching Paddock for 30 years. But when one of the documentary PD went there to see how he was, then he lost actually in a battle to someone who just had a low degree, and he was just an amateur. And they were not even able to go for a long time, but he lost very soon after the battle had started. So on his own, he might have suffered a lot. But you have to think about it, whether his sufferings are for the achievement of his goal. Okay, and also other example, Sangyo, the stone woman, she cannot have a baby. And if it's the fact that she cannot have a baby, then no matter how hard she tries to become pregnant, she cannot have a baby. So when you say it's a proper perception, it's very important to have a proper perception than anything else. But here we have other problem. The biggest problem is you're not because of your ignorance, you're not aware that you are ignorant. You're not aware that you don't know. Only after you came to realize that you do not know, after knowing it. So just like this, I'm telling you, you should always ask under the perception that you do not know. Because of your misunderstanding or your misperception that you know already, you do not ask and you are ignorant. Am I saying, is it too difficult from what I say? I hope you understand. I'm sure that all your average IQ is more than 140. First, actually, when I went with one of the lady and tried to buy a rosary in Bodh and from looking at her calculation, I felt like her IQ is more than 160. Look at it, like you're actually changing the currency of money from Korean won to dollars, and from Korean won to dollars you have to change to rupees, and you have to think about these three currencies at the same time. So it's quite complex. So in order to give it to you, I bought about 567 rosaries made of rosewood, and I removed like 2 of them because they were not proper goods. And also I tried to buy some other rosaries made from other stones, and the merchant, the owner of the shop, he felt he was very disturbed because the calculation was way too much, and I was facing difficulty too, and he was really bad at math, just like me. Maybe Arians are good at calculation, but we weren't. And so the other lady who I was with, she said the calculation is done. And when I asked how did you do it, then she was just like, oh, this. And I wonder if her IQ is more than 150. But when I looked at it, I think she came to know when she was buying these fan muscles from auction, and only if she knows the benefit and also the shortage of it, she's able to know. So and because it is not possible to gain benefit in auction if your calculation is not fast, just like me, someone like me, if we go, then we will end up losing. or will end up not being able to buy anything. Just like this, even the study is saying, if you keep studying, then you will improve over time. If you have a proper cause and proper condition, and if you keep studying, then even if you are not someone with excellent knowledge or excellent brain power, you will be able to do it if you keep doing it. Because of loss of faith, if you stop it in between and if you give up at some point of time, then there is no progress and you will just be stuck in one area. If your husband argues with you for some reason, then maybe it's time for you to give it up or just leave it out, thinking that maybe our relationships are coming to end. But you argue with him and you swear at him, and then you regret later that, oh, I didn't want to do it, but I did it again this time. So when you listen to this teaching, then after on the way back home, you think, if I get back home, then I will be nice to my husband. But once you reach your home, you argue with your husband again, and there's no much progress. You didn't study a lot of the scientific theory back in your home, back in your school, right? But occasionally you can see these intelligent students who just come out and calculate without any knowledge. I was very shocked. But even if you calculate previously, there's no use, because those who's watching it, they cannot believe you. And just like him, he was not able to believe their calculation, but he sat and started counting again. The time I was really angry was a time when I was in Nepal and the bus was stopped, and they were trying to buy the present, and even though balancing scale was not proper, but he was trying to calculate with the balancing scale, and he can also calculate like how much is it per box, but he just wanted to calculate it as per the kgs, and for the whole day he was counting on the amount of the one box. So I wanted to buy 2 to 3 boxes, and I was afraid that it might take long. So I wanted to go to the neighboring shop and buy there, but even the young boy there said the same. So I could not even buy a gift, and I just came back. When I was coming out of Spiti, because the apples of Spiti are good, and when I wanted to buy, and when I asked them how much is it per one, and when I told him it's this much amount for this much, and he was very shocked, and he looked at me, and he gave it to me. But your calculation was something like they're used to counting it, and I think because we Koreans are good at those sort of calculation, we might be earning a lot of money. Someone like me, even if many years pass by, I won't be able to earn any money. So people like us, if we go for travel, if we have some money in our pocket, then we are not aware how much is it in our pocket, and when it's end of the journey, we are not aware of how much is left. And okay, where are we? If we give a comparison, it's almost like us squeezing milk from the horn. Just like I said, it's almost like making a sprout out of the stone. If there's no cause, then there is no consequence. If the cause is not concrete, then the consequence cannot come. This is something we are already aware in our day-to-day life. So if we say, can someone become rich just from his acts of his acts of being very active, but he should be active for a proper cause. He should not be active for stealing, and he should not be active for being lazy, and we should also know for what conditions he is active for. Like for example, if he's only active for earning money, but with that money, if he's only actively spending it on drinking and also gambling, then he's not able to earn money. He won't be able to gain money in that kind of way. Oh, I don't know if I can mention the right name the name on the internet, but it's just like Song Dae-gan's wife. Song Dae-gan has been singing all his life to earn money, but all the money that he earned, his wife spent already on gambling. So all his life that he has been living for many years became vain. And as you know, because of his famous song, he earned a lot of money. If there is deficiency in the cause, then there can be no sprout out of it. For example, from the seed, if the seed is boiled, or if the seed is eaten by a bug, or if the seed has been if the seed has caused the disease, then there can be no sprout from it. So even when you're planting the rice seed, you soak it in the salty water, and those which float on the water, you take them out and you throw them. I think I'm the only one who is from a village. You plant the rice seeds in the salty water, and those seeds which are dead, they float on the water, and you throw them out. If you do not take them out, normally an average one proper seed leads to 146 seeds. So an improper one seed also ruins 140 seeds. It's the same with the beans. Proper cause and proper condition beans. One single bean, from the one single bean, if it's very successful, then normally more than 200 beans are also harvested. So a seed is very important. So even if we have the sense of bodhisattva from our heart, if you practice the 6 parameters, then your heart expands to millions of times. It's for sure. It is very sure. So the seed of Bodhisattva itself should not be spoiled.
씨앗 자체가 결성이 되면 안 돼. 씨앗 자체 결성이 돼.
So you should throw out all the common or everyday life, and whatever you are doing in your everyday life,
가만 보니까 정말 봄철에 일어나는
you should realize that they are very temporary life. And instead, if you stop thinking about this life, and if you realize how vague your everyday life is, or even politics is, I feel really sad for Anchersi for entering the field of politics. I really feel sad for him. So, when you say our everyday life, you also know how vague or how meaningless it is. It just arises just like a springtime.
다 사라지는 거죠. 역사의 뒤안길로 다 사라지고 역사라는 것 자체도 뒤에서 사라지고 마는 것이야.
It just arises like a heat shimmer in the spring, but they all disappear momentarily. So my act of
부처가 되는 일이게.
so you should have the base thought of trying to save or trying to sacrifice everything of your life for the good of all sentient beings.
라는 것이 보살 삶의 보살 도예요. 보살 도야.
That is the way of Bodhisattva.
사는 삶의 길이라 그래.
We say that's the way of our life.
삶의 길이라 그래.
For that, if you want the consequence, then you should always rely on the proper cause and proper condition. For this, there can be no further explanation. If you want a concrete cause, then if you want a concrete consequence, then you should have a concrete cause and proper condition, or else you will not be able to gain the concrete consequence. It's the same. If you want healthiness in your everyday life, then you have to provide the condition and also cause of healthiness. If you do not provide condition and cause for healthy life, then you are not able to achieve it. It's the same for everything else. If you want peace in your family, I've seen in a lot of mottos of many homes, you wish peacefulness of your home. So where will be the cause of the peacefulness of your home? So without cause and condition, there can be no consequence. There is no exception in even 0.01%. It's the same theory for everyone else. If you plant beans, you'll be harvesting beans. If you plant red beans, you'll be harvesting red beans. But if you think about these things too, when you have planted beans and red beans, or if you have planted beans and sweet potato, then there is a seed for the beans and also sweet potato. Although they are the same seeds, maybe not in the shape, but as a form of a seed, if you give them a condition, then the condition is also different depending on the seed. If you give same fertilizer and same water to beans and sweet potatoes, then beans will die and sweet potatoes will grow. because for the beans,
박테리아가
um,
기생을 해서 살고 그 박테리아가
because for the beans, they grow on the nitrogen comes from the bacteria of comes from the bacteria for the beans.
집어넣으면 콩이 안 달려. 왜? 콩이 미쳐. 키만
So that's the condition that the beans need.
그렇게 해가지고 아주 가보.
The soil that can grow bacteria.
그는 콩 밑에 박테리아가 콩 뿌리 밑에는 다 박테리아가 딱 같이 살게 돼 있어. 그래서 밑에 그 개가 먹고서 콩나무 그게 해서
The bacteria eats the water and also fertilizer from the bean plant, and it provides
그 콩밭에는 비료를 안 주는 거야.
and it and it provides the nitrogen. And because the bean is planted in an area where the land is harsh, so those lady who try to harvest from the bean plant, they have to work a lot.
그 질갑산이야. 그 위치에 좀 맞다니까.
I think the person who made this song is quite aware of agriculture.
농사에
I think the person who wrote these lyrics are aware of the agriculture, or else I think he won't be able to come up with this kind of lyrics.
고구마밥 먹는데 듣다라든지 뭐 무슨 뭐 그렇게 할 거 아닌 거죠.
We spoke everything.
뭐 얘기 다 해버렸네.
Probably the first thing we should all understand what Dalai Lama has said. I think it'll be good to look at them. After we collect all proper and absolute conditions, following the right order, if we widen our heart, putting the proper causes, we can gain absolute knowledge. So, when you're making a soup, what do you put first?
찌개 따라서 뭐 된장찌개 끓인다 치고.
When you're making a soybean paste soup, you put the soybean paste first.
해야 되겠지, 그죠?
Before putting the soybean paste, what do you
뭐 해야
put?
됩니까?
You put in the water.
말아가지고.
You put in the water which you have used to wash the rice.
쌀뜨물로 닦으면 훨씬
If you use that water, then the toxins of vegetables will reduce a little. So put that water and mix the soybean paste. And after that,
들어가는 재료들이 어쨌든
the ingredients that you have to put the hard vegetables or ingredients first. You have to put the potato first or radish first.
파하고 마늘하고
Some of you might put everything together,
해가지고 감자하고 그냥 무하고 싹 한 뿌리 넣어놓으면
and if you boil too long, then the vegetables will become yellow, and if you boil too less, then the radish is still tough.
근데 이제 찌개를
So even when you're making a vegetable soup, you also have other to put things.
농사에 짓는데
Just when you're doing the farming,
벼농사를 지으면 모자리판 할때
everything has an order.
순서가 다 있어.
There's time for everything, and there's also order for everything.
자기의 모판을 골라가지고 벽지를 뿌릴 때는
When you water the rice seed, what do you have to do? You're not aware because you have not done it before. You have to remove water and then plant the seeds.
그 위에가 이렇게 됐어. 이거 골고루 뿌리기 위해서 물을 살짝 빼고 뿌리는 거야. 그냥 물이 많이 들어있는 상태는 뿌리면 옆에 꼬랑으로 내려가 버립니다.
A lot of them are washed down if there's too much water.
그 다음에 이제 물을 빼서
After that, you have to water them and you have to put lukewarm water.
물을
the water should not be too cold.
높여서 가둬놔야 돼. 그러면 햇빛을 받아서 물이 따뜻하게 온도가 올라가자. 그는 우미 튀어.
And the sprouts will start coming out.
이제 올라올 때 이제 그 다음에
And when the sprouts are coming, you should not fertilize it.
그때는 이제 이 이파리가 2개 정도 나오면 비사리를 해. 피를 뽑아. 이렇게 이제 그 다음에
Maybe after like 2 sprouts are out, then you take out the cover, and before you move them, you put pesticide.
농약을 친단 말이야. 그리고 이제 뭐를 갖다 요즘에는 이제 기계 뭐 얘기를 하지만 뭐를 쪄가지고 이제 심고 나서도
And then you move them and you plant them. Even when you move them, the first time you should not give the fertilizer.
땅 심은다는 얘기 뭐냐면 그렇게 이제 초록색으로 짙게 이제 뿌리발해서 올라온단 말이야. 그러면 이제 그때 올라올 때 보면 조금 그런
And if some yellow leaves come out after moving, you have to give them fertilizer.
비료를 줄 때는 그걸 그 포기치기 그릇이라 그래.
You're looking at me as if I'm some alien.
그 포기치기 그때는 이제 벼가 이제 하나가 2개가 되고 2개가 4개가 되고 막
This time the rice it leaves to many different branches, and
146개 달린 게 아니고 이 포기를 4개를 치면 곱하기 4가 돼.
and it's not like 148 rice are grown from one plant,
4개나
but
5개만 심고 6월 한 20일 전후로 심는 데는
but it gets divided as per the rice, as per the time they plant them. So
그다음에 포기치기 그거고 나면 이제 논을 내.
depending on the period that you plant them, you also plan when you are going to and how much you are going to harvest from the rice.
그 뼈가 달릴 이게 꼬타리가 올라올 때 이때 쭉 뽑아 올리라고 이제 그런 팁도 준다고.
So even for agriculture, there's an order. For doing every work, there is an order. Even to practice your meditation, there is also an order. So even for 6 parameters, there is an order. Even the act of bodhisattva, you also have an order. Why is bodhisattva first? It's almost like if you are trying to eat the chestnut, raw chestnut, then you have to peel the outer external cover, then only you can eat it. Just so you have to throw out your materialistic greed and also the selfish eye. If you do not give them up, then you cannot achieve wisdom and also samatha, and also you are not able to do any practice. The strongest cover for our human being is desire. That's why we ask you to donate and also contribute to others. It is not possible for those who has not yet given up the greed from our previous life and also from this life. So if your heart is not awakened, it's the same. Even when you are cooking egg, you also take the egg out of the shell. No one is egg as it is, including the eggshell. It's the same as that. The thing that puts us into the most misery and also the thing that makes us most difficult is the shell. That's why we say you have to give up your greed. Why am I hungry today? If we do it in the afternoon, I might ask you to let's do it after we have lunch, but I cannot even ask that. So that is written as per the correct order. So the Tibetan monks,
질서를 지키지 않고 내가 졸지에 뭐 승불하겠다 그러면
If you say that you do not follow the order, but you will gain enlightenment at some time, then many of the teachers they will say, "I am not aware of this at all. You can do whatever you want." But for us,
근데 우리는 참 우물에서 숭내느라고 그런 게 많이
it's different. It's as if you do not require anything else, but you can become Buddha directly. Why do you need other activities? Why do you have to contribute to others? You do not have to contribute others. It's only for those who love contributing. Rules and regulations, it's only those commons who follow them, and also tolerance is only for those who is not proper. Whether you are angry or whether you do not follow the rules and regulations, or whether your greed is so big, if you just go through the passing, and if you just become Buddha, then it puts end to everything. A lot of you and a lot of them they speak of this way. You should actually ask what's possible. You should not just ask everything from everywhere.
밥한 뒤에 내놓으라 그래도 안 돼. 밥은 뒤에 내놓으라.
So even in our practice or meditation, if you are in a hurry, it's not possible. You have to follow everything in order, just like a step by a step. That's the fastest and that's the easiest way. Just like if you hate your mom cultivating the farm, if you just ruin it, then everything is not working out. So you have to put the efforts in the order, and from there you can get the absolute knowledge. It is not just enough with gathering all the delicious ingredients, but if you want to put up proper food, then you have to know what spices or what oil you have to put and how you have to mix them. You know, those who cannot cook, they just go to the market and buy what they see. Buy this and that and again this, and then when they go home, they put into their fridge and they forget. But those who cook well, if you're going to make the soybean paste, they know what to buy for the soybean paste, and they'll just make the soybean paste. I've been to Imad a couple of times, and when I go there, I just watch. And I think the person doesn't know how to cook, and he brings everything into the shopping cart. And I'm sure half of them are rust in the fridge. And since a lot of them are frozen in the fridge, they don't know what's in there. If you're not aware of what's in your fridge, then you cannot use them, but you have to throw them out. The older you get, the sooner you have to throw them out. So by the time you're old and you're about to die, there shouldn't be too many things that has to be thrown. So even your clothes, when you are dead, no one wants to take them. So I think you should give everything when you are alive. I heard this from Tibetan monks, and I was very impressed. A lot of these Tibetan monks, when they are about to die, they give them one by one to others.
한 개씩 주는 거야. 이거는 네 가져라. 이건 너 가져라 하고 주고서 마지막에
And
밥그릇을 준다.
in the end, they give them their bowl. So the person who receives the bowl, he should go and check the monk soon. So by the time that he is dead, there's nothing that he could give anymore. But after your death, if you have like millions of money, and if your children are fight, and your children go to the court, and they fight with knives, even in the funeral, the brothers and sisters they sit on their back, and instead of praying, they just calculate how much money is that person taking. After your death, if you have so many things that's left behind, it should not happen out. A lot of people will gather to take out everything that you possess, just like vultures trying to eat from your dead corpse. Even your children will be thieves. The biggest thieves are your children.
그거는 받지도 못해 이놈의 새끼들은. How
much do you owe in the previous life that you want to give them more even after your death? There is no enemy who is greater than this. You feel it's the end when you get them married, but even after married, they want you to look after your grandchildren, and they want you to contribute money in buying their new house. And the moment they realize that the parents does not have money anymore, then they do not come and see you often. You feel like your children will not do that, but those who think that they won't do, does it worse. So they're misunderstanding. You feel like you have brought them up in a good way, and how much degrees that you are giving to them, but because they have so much degrees, and also because they have grown up in that situation, they are worse.
박사학위하고 유학 보낸 사람일수록 나중에 늙어서는 오갈 데가 없다니까 엄마 아빠가.
The more efforts and the more investment that
뭐 초상 침대도 잘 알아.
that you put, they will come and take it out more from you. So the biggest tip is to your mom is the first son.
아주 무지무지한 도둑놈이야. 수갑도 채울 수 없는 도둑놈.
He is the biggest culprit that we cannot even put the handcuff. For father, the biggest thief is the first daughter. If the first daughter and comes and talks to you about it, then the father can do nothing.
아빠 등 밑에 앉아가지고 아빠 뭐 어쩌고 저쩌고 저쩌고 어깨나 두 번 주물러 주면 그냥 그래 알았다. 그것들 그냥 속 창아리까지.
You're not aware that they are trying to eat everything of yours. So there is nothing to trust. You just have to believe that because of your previous relation, you are born, and in your heart you should always put a brake. If you don't do that, but if you just leave it out, then they will keep slipping down. So when we are dying, since we are going alone anyway, no one goes together with friends. At Jin Dynasty, he wanted to die with so many people, so he even buried all the maids and slaves. But what do you think? He died alone eventually. There's no way for two to go together.
그러니까 덜금하게 그냥 물이나 옆에 떠넣어줄 자식이라도 하나 있으면 그냥 그것도 바르는 게.
So even after that, you expecting that your children will come and maybe offer you some water after your death. That's also great. So you should just feel like or think like you will be taking your own water and go. It's
한심치료가요.
pathetic, right?
그러니까
So
내가
when
가만
you sit and think about it, there are not too many ways to practice your exercising.
수행하는 방법이 별로 없습니다. 하니 연구를 하다 그냥
You have to pray hard, and while praying, you can just die.
원인이
And also, that kind of death is very blessed death. You have to provide them the cause and also condition for this kind of death.
뭐 오늘 반 페이지도 못.
We have not even done half a page today.
일체지의 결과는
In order to
원인과 조건
what is a cause and what is the condition for the optimum knowledge? If you ask me, then I'm like a blind person, and so I do not have the potential to teach this.
세종께서
But
제 부처를 이루신 후에 제자들에게 설하신
But after Buddha has become Buddha, he has spoken. So
세종께서 이와 같이
as he has spoken,
그 앞에 보면
so I told you the absolute knowledge is enlightenment.
깨달음이라고 그랬죠, 그죠? 깨달음인데 이건 대각이에요. 부처의 경지, 아란 경지가 아닌 부처의 경지.
In order to get Buddha's knowledge or Buddha's condition, what is the condition? But someone like me, I'm like a blind person, so I do not have the potential to teach them. But you're talking about the way that Buddha has spoken after he became a Buddha. This is a very humble opinion of his, because Buddha has spoken everything. You just have to do as Buddha has said. You just have to explain to it.
비밀주의 일체지의 지혜라는 것은 비밀주가 뭐냐? 부처님을 얘기하는 거야. 일체지.
The absolute knowledge that Buddha has attained has been formed based on the compassion. So listen to it.
그러니까 이해 들어보시죠. 우리가 중생의 고통을
From the compassion that he is going to free all sentient beings from suffering, we got the matters to tackle it, and we call that wisdom. If a patient visits doctor because of his sickness,
진단할 수 있는 방식과 고칠 수 있는 수술법과 또 치료할 수
and
있는
the doctor possessing the means to cure him and also medicines to cure him, that's his wisdom. So
중생을 건지겠다라는 지혜가 없을 때는
So if Buddha or if anyone else does not have the compassion to save all other sentient beings in this world, then there can be no wisdom coming out of it. So the absolute knowledge, where has it arise from?
어디서 나온 거냐? 부처님 일체지라는 것은
Knowing everything, the omniscience.
중생을 갖다 건질 수 있는 모든 방법을 다 알 수 있는 이 얘기는
His wisdom of knowing it all came out of compassion to save all sentient beings.
관자재 보살을 그러죠. 일체 중생을 다 관찰해서 건져볼 수 있는 일체 중생의 고통을 관찰해 볼 수 있는 내 자유롭고
Buddha is someone who is compassionate and who is also patient enough to save all other sentient beings, and he is also very keen on watching or observing everyone's happiness and also suffering. It is clearly spoken in Prayana Paramita 2.
병원을 한번 데리고 갔더니까요. 데리고 가자마자 얘가 기절을 해버려.
Once one of the son had problem with the tooth, and when I took them to dentist, he was so scared and he faint, and doctor was so scared. So
아니라 다른 병원에 가서 이빨을 뽑아가지고 이거 낳고 나니까
So I thought maybe it's the age of the maybe it's the age of the dog because um, the moment before when it rang the bell for the food, he was so happy and he would run around the temple in order to eat. But uh, but he was not moving at all, even after the bell. So I thought maybe it's just because he became old. But later, when I took him to another doctor and all his rotten teeth are out, he was just jumping around. So I realized it is my fault. It is lack of my observation. So likewise, if you do not have the sense of compassion, then it is not helpful to others. Think about it. Um,
달라라마께서 이제 유럽이나 서구나 아프리카 이런
when Dalai Lama goes to Europe or Western countries and speak about Buddhism, he also tells them about what is cause and effect and what is love and what are the relationships that's required between humans. But a lot of Korean monks, they speak about how what kind of teaching does the Dalai Lama does, that he talks about something that's very basic. But a lot of our Korean monks, when they go and teach them, they ask, do you know about what is the means to get enlightenment? But how would they know when they have no base for it? Then what is it? You have to watch what difficulties does the Westerners need, or what difficulties does the Westerners face, and what are the things that they need. You have to watch them and you have to cure it. But instead, you just give them whatever you think is proper.
해야 될 이유도 잘 몰라. 그런 방법도 잘 몰라. 그 왜 그러냐? 그걸 가르칠 수 있는
And a lot of those people, they are not even aware of the things that what is the thing that they have to learn and what are the methods to learn. It's because they do not have the compassion. Whatever the cause is, if they have the compassion, then
자비심이 있으면 우리 생각해 내가 강가에 산다. 전에요. 저 봉원사 서울 봉원사 그 뚝섬 그 한강에 엄청나게 일제 때 홍수가 나가지고 막 한강이
before in olden times, there was a flood in Tuksam in Seoul, and because of that, a lot of animals and a lot of houses they were just washed away. So one of the monks, he said, let's save them, but people who were looking at them, they were so afraid to jump because there are so many people being washed away. So the monk said, if you save one person, I will give you $100. He put it as a notice, and a lot of people they jumped in order to save others because of the money. They put up the rope, and they started jumping into the water. And at the time, they saved about 1,000 people. You know, that hurt.
그 마음이 그런 순간적인 방편이 나오는 거지. 돈이 없지. 근데 그건 거짓말하는 거냐? 안 그래. 봉사는 하나가 줬다고.
That was his method. There was the monk's method to save others. He sold all most of his properties and gave it to people who saved the others. But those people who also save others, they also felt weird because they received the money because they were told that they would have given the money, but from the act of saving, they have done a good deed. But after they receive the money, they feel like they have not done the good deed. So those people, after receiving money, after some thought, they felt like they have not done a proper job by accepting money, and so they came back and returned. And also those people who took the farm, when they harvest from the farm, they brought some of the rice or some of the products that they harvested to the temple, and they became Buddhist. So look at it. His compassion is the monk's compassion is so great.
내가 지금 순간적으로 천수천하니 천개 손이 되고 천개 눈이 될 수 있는 것은 그런 사람들을 동원할 수 있는 힘도 실제적으로 그게 천수천하게 된단 말이야. 그러니까
from his acts of saving about 1,000 people.
천명이나 한강에서 은혜를 항상 구했단 말이야. 그건 관찰해 볼 수 있는 힘이 없고.
If you do not observe and if you are just submerged in your own selfishness, then you will not be able to see. So your strength in your heart should be great. Even someone like Jesus Christ, because he wanted to save others, he also died there. He felt it's meaningless for him to go out alive from that area. And for that, we think he is a great man too. It's based on the compassion, but it is also based from the seed of Bodhisattva. For the old sentient beings, if I want to become Buddha, it's caused under the condition. For this, the compassion provides us the seed. As a means, using this means I become Buddha. So, what is the means? The means are those 6 parameters. When everything comes true, then you become a Buddha. So if you wish to gain absolute knowledge, then you need to have both compassion, also bodhisattva, and also means. If you do not practice those 3, then it is not happening. The Kamashila, in order to explain what are the means to attain absolute knowledge and also the proper cause, he uses the Buddha's words. Buddha says that those who are interested in the absolute knowledge, they should practice bodhisattva based on compassion. And this practice should also be practiced together with the samatha and vipassana, and also the 6 parameters as the backing up points. And you should also know that they cannot be practiced separately. They also act as related natures to help each other. And if you are able to complete these, then we say you are the Buddha. Although these 2 things are 2 separate things, you have to practice them together. They are like the rules wheels. And regardless of Hinayana and Mahayana, if you want to respect or practice Buddha's teachings, you also have to the base compassion, which is the root of the Buddhism, should also be together. So Buddha is such a great man, regardless of the people, whether they are someone who is related to Buddha or whether it's someone who is not related to him. He made sure that it's beneficial to everyone, and also those who are just commons who are not practicing Buddhism, and also his cousins, and also so many. And also those who had a mere relation with Buddha at the time. He made sure that everyone could gain wisdom from his teaching. That's why we also say he's a great teacher, and also he's a great person, a person with a great compassion. Next time we are going to speak about compassion. Do you have any questions?